Hello everyone, welcome back to Trek a Day and another Trek Chat. We have a bunch of little topics here to talk about some Star Trek news and continuing the TNG watch, actually so much that I'll probably have another one of these up just a few days after this one because there's a lot that I want to get into that's been coming up recently as keeps happening with this era kind of wrapping up and the Skydance Paramount merger. Lots of combinations of news and rumors are constantly flying, affecting the future of Star Trek. One, and actually a couple here that don't really surprise me, but I know as garnered some disappointment. One, Patrick Stewart, it seems, is likely going to be retiring from acting. I mean, the guy has put in an incredible lifetime of work, and you need to stop at some point. And I genuinely thought that the end of Picard Season 3 was going to be the last we'd ever see of Jean-Luc Picard, but I know there was some inkling of hope from some people out there that we would see that character again, even like some kind of cameo or something, or to help launch a Star Trek Legacy concept. But while maybe a tiny, brief, little, like 30-second cameo and something is not entirely out of the question, I pretty much thought that we were never going to see that character again, so it doesn't really surprise me. And the other thing is that the possibility of a return to the Kelvin timeline movies, a fourth one of those, has been pretty much squashed. And it did seem like for a while there was a little bit of the potential of that happening, but I never really thought the chances were great, and this doesn't surprise me at all. One, it's been so long, and they've already kind of gone into a prequel kind of reboot alternate universe series, and then they've already kind of gone back to that timeline, and the existence of Strange New Worlds and the Paul Wesley Kirk and having then a different thing on screen is just the appeal. I don't think was going to be quite there, especially because those movies are really targeting beyond just like a Star Trek audience. They're really also kind of trying to grab a general audience appeal, and having multiple kind of products in that sort of general time frame, but from different universes. I mean, it's just going to be confusing to the average viewer. It's been, again, I think too long to really go back to that, and it comes to a larger point that it feels like Star Trek is going to and really needs to have a fresh start. We need to see a lot of things from the past, the starts and stops the series has had ever since 2005 and the end of Enterprise. We need to see all that kind of wrap up. Both, it means the good has to go along with the bad. But I think Star Trek really does need to see things with this Academy and Strange New Worlds kind of be the wrap up for this era of Star Trek. Leave it as it is. Again, some has been good, some has been bad, some's been outright horrendous. But whether you like any of it or not, I think we really need to kind of put some closure on all the Star Trek stuff that has come since the end of Enterprise, and give the franchise a little bit of a rest and a fresh new look with new leadership. And I think that it would go against that idea and that goal and that messaging to kind of bring back another thing. So it really is not surprising at all. And related to that, part of the messaging that seems to be coming out of what is to be expected from this next wave of Star Trek is an idea that it's really become, in this streaming era, far too expensive for the return that it's been getting. And I think we might see a slow shift in whatever is going to be the next Star Trek series to something that is lower budget per episode, more episodes per seasons, more episodic storylines. I really think we're going to see something that gravitates more towards feeling like 90s Star Trek. I think that's where they're going to bring this next wave, trying to really appeal more towards that core audience. Even though it sways a bit older, I think that is the direction that it is heading, and if that is how things go, I think that could be a very, very positive direction to head towards, as long as it's presented in a manner that is forward-thinking and not yet another series bogged down by being a prequel, with one very strong exception, because I think it's something that could be different enough to differentiate it from the prequel dilemma that plagues a lot of series, and that is the potential of a return of Jonathan Archer. Because the ideas behind it sound fascinating and something that could be really different, sort of a Star Trek West Wing type show, something that's not a traditional Star Trek, that could be a great idea. And my thoughts on that particular idea, I do want to take a little more time with, get a little more in depth with, so that's probably what I'm going to start the next TrekChat video with, is really kind of digging into that. But for now, I think that is something that has the potential to be something different in a way that could really work, and I have some ideas of what that could really bring back if it happens and is what it seems like it could be. Next up for our continuing Star Trek Next Generation rewatch, we have When the Bow Breaks from Season 1. When a world that is largely seen as more of just a legend decloaks, revealing itself to the Enterprise D, this breathtaking discovery, a legend come to life, and we find that it is because they are in a rather dire situation and their entire society is on the brink of collapse. They have become overly reliant on a custodian and have lost the ability to bear children. And parts of the episode work, parts of it I think could have been a little better. It's a lot with Season 1 where, I actually enjoy this episode. I always thought that it was one of the better ones from Season 1, but like some of the other ones that are kind of in that category, there's still some stuff that wasn't quite there. Part of it was the attempt at an environmentalist message that was very much of the time on how this shield system that they're using to cloak their planet has weakened the ozone layer of their planet, and the radiation exposure is a large part of why they are unable to bear children. You also have a bit of that very kind of TOS style reliance on technology guiding their society, and some commentary too on the costs and benefits of specialization versus sort of like a jack-of-all-trades mentality of people with certain skill sets hyper-focusing on just that one particular skill set, and the benefits of being able to really bring that out and heighten those, and the person will kind of reach their true inner potential within that one area. But then things get so segmented, and little things are just kind of touched upon, and that were not really explored in any meaningful way. Again, the very kind of timely ozone layer message could have gone over a bit better, given a little more time. But one of the things that works well, surprisingly well, considering how difficult it can be, especially with weekly episodic television, to work with children with such limited time frames, or an episode that features a lot of child actors, as they kidnap several children from the Enterprise D, including Wesley Crusher, and give them to families on the planet. That aspect all worked well, and the conflicts between the parents and the desire to have children, and I think a lot of that was really some of the stronger stuff within the episode. And Wesley Crusher, Wesley focused episodes don't always work, but here I think he was given a slightly different role. He wasn't just that kind of awkward, sometimes annoying, super genius kid put into kind of odd situations where a lot of times it feels like he shouldn't be on the bridge once things start to get real. Like, it's fine, he's there, training, whatever, but as soon as the situation gets serious, let's replace him with an actual officer. But here's a situation where that really wasn't the focus, and he was kind of put in as the oldest child there in this leadership role, and have him kind of mature a little in that moment and stand up and be the protector of these children. And I think that in general that aspect was written well. I think Will Wheaton gives one of his better performances as Wesley, not his best, but I think one of his better ones, especially at such an early stage. So for an episode that's just kind of a somewhat forgettable episode of the week, I think there are some elements in it that really work, and it's one of those that I can just kind of put on as a rewatch. It's never going to be a favorite that I'm going to take the off the shelf and go purposely watch it again. But if it's ever just kind of on, or I'm just watching some episodes from the first season and it comes on, I'll rewatch it again because I think it is good enough to check out. And then we have Home Soil. I always really like this one. I think everything about it in general works. Where the Enterprise D is visiting an outpost that is in the process of terraforming a planet, and I think it does a great job of, one, kind of going into the process of terraforming, giving us some ideas of what that process is like, outside of like a real just kind of crazy miracle process like Genesis, but how they're actually doing it and what it takes, how long it takes, and what is life like when you're terraforming. And I think especially in the first season gives a really good look into the perspective of the Federation when terraforming, and the real Prime Directive driven desire to make sure that it is a situation where they are not negating any potential life on a planet, not kind of going in and usurping and overtaking the natural process of a planet, but taking an area that has no real chance for life and creating it there. And I thought it worked well. All the scientists that were involved, their characters were interesting, and their motives, especially as we get into a bit of a kind of locked door murder mystery that works well. And I like the discovery of what's really going on with this new life form, and it's just one of those that seems like a real, very solid general Star Trek episode. And I think overall it does a good job of showing a lot of the strengths of TNG. So it's another Season 1 episode that I definitely think deserves a watch or a revisit or rewatch if you haven't seen it in a long time, because it's a pretty solid episode. And one thing I remember from this episode as a little kid seeing it for the first time was the line of ugly bags of mostly water. That still makes me crack up. And we'll continue our rewatch in the next TrekChat video. And as I said, that one will probably be primarily focused on where I see the potential of this possible Scott Bakula Archer series, and how that could really fit into a new wave of Star Trek shows, and of course get into the TNG rewatches and any other news stories that might crop up between now and then. You never know, it seems like every other day a little something comes out here or there. Thank you for joining me, and remember to enjoy a little bit of Star Trek in every day.